Hello dear viewers, the topic on which we will have the lecture today is the problems of housing in India. Housing is one of the most important and crucial indicators of welfare of human. Housing is such a facility for human beings which gives them shelter against odds done by nature which are totally unpredictable at times like rains, thunderstorms, hailstorms and the like. Housing gives a moral strength with the sense that there is a place where one can return after earning bread and can make himself ready for the toils of the following day. Housing is a feeling of security for human beings. Most commonly, housing is used as settlement credentials for weddings in both patriarchal as well as matriarchal societies. Unless and until housing is available, the course of human life does not run smooth. But the real question is, does housing mean having a house only? Only having a house as a shelter is surely the basic of housing, but other than that, other concerns emerge in the discussion. Housing means having a livable house which supports life and the living of members of the family dwelling in it. A livable house can be explained taking in care of the size of the house in relation to the number of persons living in it, the toilet and sanitation facility, availability of safe drinking water, safe construction of house to combat situations like floods, earthquakes and the like, adequate ventilation and fresh air for breathing as a savior against threats and risk of health troubles and the like. Not going much further, if we just have a thought of the definition of the house given by Census 1971, it makes the picture quite exploring at the very base. Census 1971 defined house as a building or a part of a building having a separate main entrance from the road or common courtyard or staircase, etc. In addition, Census explained house as used or recognized as a separate unit. It explained that a house can be inhabited or a vacant place, used for residential or non-residential purposes both. Indian population has not been so fortunate. The houses in India do not totally match the census houses in all cases. Problems of housing emerge when not all but most of these features are missing in a house. Many houses in India lack a dignified living, not having a demarcation from the main roads, barring their privacy, lack of covered washrooms and toilets, lack of privacy due to poor construction or you may say thick density in families, lack of separate kitchens, polluting the air to breathe in, causing irreparable damage to the health, lack of security against natural disasters, especially earthquakes and the like, due to which many houses are often reported to be ruined, and lack of many other amenities needed for a good survival. Many of these problems are well reflected in data compiled by Census 2011. Table 1 shows that out of the total, 92.5% of the houses in India are occupied census houses, out of 93.8% in rural areas and 89.9% in urban areas. And on the other hand, 7.5% of the total census houses in India are vacant, and that is 6.2% in rural areas and 10.1% in urban areas. According to table 2, only 53.2% houses of the total number of census houses are in good condition, whereas 41.5% are in livable conditions, followed by 5.3% in dilapidated condition. An additional worry is that the houses in good conditions are more in number in urban areas and lesser in rural areas, and on the other hand, the vice versa situation is opposite to it. It further shows a rural-urban dichotomy of the problems of housing in India, where rural areas suffer more. Scene of ownership of houses is better in rural areas, wherein 94.7% of the total owned houses in India are in rural areas and 69.2% are in urban areas. On the other hand, the rented accommodation is on a higher percentage in urban areas than rural areas, which is perhaps very obvious due to the process of urbanization attracting more and more people each day for trying their settlements in cities and the townships. Referring to density of persons sharing a common house, it can be well seen that the one room and two rooms houses are highest in numbers relatively, and further the percentage decreases with the increase in number of rooms in a house. The situation of rural area is not as good as that of urban areas. As an addition to the worrisome concern in case of households by bathing facilities, type of drainage connectivity for waste outlets, availability of kitchen and fuel used for cooking need a thorough effort by the governmental as well as the non-governmental organizations to bridge the gap. Less than 50% of the total census houses have a bathroom. Worse is to know that 48.9% of the total census houses have no drainage at all. All these conditions pose big threats to human health and the claims of human welfare too. Now we will discuss causal explanation with focus on population. Research has proved it that many people today suffer from chronic liver diseases, lung failures, paralysis, high blood pressures, increased threat of paralysis, and the major factors behind these critical health threats are environmental degradation, toxic air to breathe in, improper housing facilities, poor sanitation, stress and the like. Hence, problems of houses in India need a thorough concern and administrative efforts. Going in depth of the thing, it can be said that housing would not have been a problem had population of India been a balanced one. In other words, the number of households available or seen in data are too lesser adequate than the number actually needed to cater the population of 121 crore citizens. Population is one of the major reasons which creates and exaggerates the problem of housing in India. Table shows data on population of India as per the latest census 2011. India's population is nearly 121 crores. It also depicts that the decadal growth rate has been 17.70%. In connection to the same, table shows population of selected countries. India, having second largest population after China, shows such a high decadal change rate, which is third highest in the world after Nigeria and followed by Pakistan, the two countries too lesser population than India. India's population is a big concern as a nation has to cater the needs of the population dwelling in it. On the other hand, the needs depend on the available resources even after themselves being infinite, unlimited and even at times undue. India's population's total is in fact the total of the population of 6 countries, namely USA, Indonesia, Brazil, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Japan. The burden of duties to cater the citizens' need of Government of India can be seen very well here. The most striking point is that India holds meagerly 2.4% of the world's surface area of 135.79 million square kilometers and it sustains 17.5% of the world's population. On the other hand, USA holds only 7.2% of the world's surface area and caters to only 4.5% of the world's population, as said by World Population Prospects 2008. In such a situation, it is very understandable that the developmental gap is an obvious effect. India is thickly suffering from issues like increased crime rates, increased suicide rates, increased number of reported gang rapes and other rape cases, devastatingly increased number of cyber crimes, stress and anxiety attacks on youth, especially along with other age groups also, increased incidence of drug addiction in youth and the like. These all are the issues emerging out of unmanageable population pressures. Problems linked to housing become much inevitable in such a situation. Talking about the concept and rationale of ecological footprinting, it has to be understood and accepted that good housing facilities can be given to all citizens of a nation only when its land has the potential matching to the quantum of needs. Land is said to be potential in terms of availability of natural resources and its capacity to reproduce the used resources. It can be achieved only if a viable cum sustainable mode of development is adopted. We will discuss now the causal explanation with focus on poverty and unemployment. We have learnt in the preceding part of the lecture that the number of dilapidated and bad condition houses in India is alarming, and the number of houses in good condition is too less than the needed range. A major reason behind this problem of housing in India is poverty, due to which many people cannot afford a good or a livable house for themselves. Poverty in this case particularly cannot be de-linked from unemployment. Table 7 shows the percentage and number of poor estimated by Tendulkar method using the mixed reference period. The percentage of people living below poverty line in India has been estimated as 21.9%. Owning a house or renovating an owned house has become too expensive an affair due to inflationary pressures. Poverty is largely linked to issue of unemployment. In urban areas, about 18% of people from the age group of 15 years to 24 years seek job or work to earn, and in rural areas this percentage is 21%. The young women seeking job are higher with their percentage, that is 17% in urban and 20% in rural areas than men. India's unemployment rate can be seen with the help of the table 8. Although people under poverty line are shown to be reducing over the years in India, but it cannot be denied that still many do not have income matching to their basically needed expenses. Next is the process of urbanization and problems of housing in India. Another factor along with thick population, unemployment and poverty which cannot be ignored in this discussion is the process of urbanization. Urbanization is literally gradual increase of people living in the urban areas. With a deeper thought, the process of urbanization can also be explained as the process of shifting of more and more people from rural areas to urban areas, and it also implies expansion of urban areas to provide settlements to the entrants. This phenomena has social, economic, political, cultural, environmental, civic, psychological and political repercussions on human life. The urbanization happening as a trend mania, unlike a thoughtful decision, is ruining many lives, but surely not of all. According to table 9, it is important to mention here that since independence, it is for the first time that the absolute increase in population is more in urban areas than the rural areas. Urbanization is being followed as a trend. Rural people find shifting to urban areas as the most apt solution to their economic, social, political problems. For them, shifting to urban areas implies adaptation to technological advancements, industrialization, and economic development. Problems of housing and the quality of housing facilities is the first issue which emerges due to this mindset. Density of population in urban areas is increasing, posing big threats to socio-cultural stability. This is a vicious circle of events and processes. Problems of housing is such an issue which has to be understood in terms of the social processes intimidating and exaggerating it. Unemployment makes people disabled to earn livelihood. Hence, ownership of a house becomes a far-off dream. Poverty makes persons accept living in bad conditioned houses and also unable to improve the hygienic conditions of their house. Urbanization as a process has encapsulated this rural-urban dichotomy of the present issue. There are many other factors behind problems of housing in India, like ignorance regarding the need of an environmentally clean accommodation, cumbersome process of availing loans with heavy documentation procedures, corruption imbibed in construction of government as well as private houses and the like. But the more serious thing is that there is a lack of data on these factors, making research and the scenario difficult to be addressed. In conclusion, I would say that problems of housing as mentioned in details with the help of data presented therein in the beginning of the lecture have to be looked into with deeper thought and a serious concern. The rage, the frustration, the anger and the health related troubles resulting out of such issues is damaging the social solidarity. Further, housing as one of the most crucial indicators of human development in economic and political terms is politicized instead of being resolved. Land scams are one of the instances which can be talked about under such a discussion, but due to paucity of time, we are bound to stick to the main theme of the lecture. For sure, the masses themselves can do a lot in case of many social issues, but whereas housing and problems of housing is concerned, the onus of the government is much more than that of the common masses. People need to be made aware through literacy that making and keeping their house clean and hygienic by maintaining sanitation and drainage is an urgent call for their good health. Government nowadays has lots of schemes for toilets and sanitation maintenance at public as well as private places, which needs to be explored and demanded by the socially active persons or groups. On the other hand, the buildings which have threats to be demolished or damaged by heavy rains and earthquakes in both residential as well as commercial areas need to be identified in time and also at the earliest, which shall to a large extent change the scenario of housing problems in India. Dear viewers, let's together wish that the data and the numeric of livable and good conditioned houses in India ameliorates and the people in the nation live a safe life in safe houses. Good wishes to you all.